Jason Voorhees, Batman.
Throughout the years, the horror movie franchise has seen many iconic villains. However, none have been quite so memorable as Jason Voorhees. The son of Pamela Voorhees, Jason was born disfigured. As a result, the young boy was often bullied and left physically and emotionally traumatized. One unfortunate day, at Camp Crystal Lake, the bullying went too far. Jason was thrown into the lake, and since he couldn't swim, and the lackluster efforts of the camp counselors, he drowned. His mother went on a killing spree, determined to make sure the camp never reopened again. However, she would ultimately be killed by her last would-be victim. Unbeknown to this final survivor, Jason, having returned from his watery grave, witnessed his mother's death and took it upon himself to continue his mother's work, butchering anyone stupid enough to re-enter the grounds of Camp Crystal Lake. An immortal spirit of vengeance, Jason is remembered as one of the most influential and deadly killers within the horror industry. But Jason is not the only one who took it upon himself to avenge the death of someone he loved. The son of Thomas and Martha Wayne, Bruce Wayne was born into a rich family. When he was a young boy, he witnessed the murder of his parents. Afterwards, he dedicated himself to making sure that no one suffered the same fate. Using his inherent wealth, he sought out the best teachers in the world, becoming a master of hand-to-hand combat and the world's greatest detective. He would don a suit to hide his identity and become known only as the Batman. Over the years, he would become a notorious hero and a symbol of hope to the people of Gotham. He would also go on to become a key member of the Justice League, a group of the world's greatest heroes. Batman is remembered as one of the world's greatest heroes and stands as a shining example of hope. Jason Voorhees, quite simply, is a physical tank. His strength is nothing less than superhuman, and has been stated to increase every time he resurrects. He has casually thrown people around like ragdolls, crushed 2 full-grown humans beneath his foot, and even swung a helicopter blade as if it were a mere baseball bat. While there aren't many examples of his speed and agility, he has on occasion demonstrated an ability to move at a considerable pace when pressed, though this isn't something that he employs often. But most of all, Jason's greatest asset was his resilience. He is known to possess both a superhuman level of durability and a healing factor. It is unknown as to whether or not this guy actually feels pain, as he is essentially a zombie. But even if he does, it likely wouldn't be to a great deal. Jason was so durable that he could withstand insane amounts of gunfire and remain standing. He could take multiple stabbing wounds, some of which have been to his head. He has kept on going after being set on fire and resisted the intensity of high voltage electricity, only being rendered unconscious by this once, and even then he was back in action in less than 20 seconds. In regards to his healing factor, it was stated in Jason X that he possessed an ability to regenerate. This power has seemed to fluctuate over his various appearances throughout the movies. He has been known to tank a grenade explosion and heal within seconds, and during his fight with Freddy Krueger he had knives jammed into his eyes, and a few minutes later they reformed. However, as I said, this power tends to fluctuate and isn't seen very often. Not that this would be much of a problem for him. Overall, very few were capable of physically competing with Jason Voorhees. Batman is a human male remaining in the prime of his life. As part of his mission to rid the streets of Gotham, he trained his body into a fighting machine. His strength was some of the best of all non-superhuman beings within the DC universe. His speed and agility were astonishing. On several occasions he has moved faster than others can perceive, having dodged gunfire numerous times casually. He has even been known to avoid Darkseid's Omega Beam, something no one had done before him. Batman's tolerance for pain and endurance were astounding. More than once he has fought through traumatic injuries, including, but not limited to, gunshot wounds, stabbing wounds, and even broken bones. And has also been known to fight with little recovery time. At the end of the day, nothing short of a fatal blow or otherwise crippling injury is going to take Batman out of a fight. This is relatively simple to call. More often than not, it is more favourable to have speed on your side, something that Batman definitely has. However, the reason for speed being more favourable is because in most circumstances, outpacing an opponent before they can fight back is more beneficial. However, this isn't the case here, as Jason would be able to endure everything Batman throws at him, and since being undead means that he essentially doesn't tire, he can definitely outlast Batman and hold on long enough till his opportunity rises, however long it may take. After all, this guy shrugged off the loss of limbs and kept on going. On top of this, Jason's strength is far and above anything Batman can hope to muster up. And should Jason get his hands on him, not even Bruce Wayne's insane tolerance for pain would be able to help him. For these reasons, I declare Jason Voorhees the physically superior combatant. Jason Voorhees is a rather straightforward yet effective combatant. His overall fighting technique is best summed up by the following: brute force, brute force, brute force. Jason's typical approach is to tank the enemy's assault and wait for the opportune moment, and when an opening is presented he'll make his move, simply bulldozing his way through his enemies. However, on the contrary to what many believe, Jason is not a tactless barbarian hefting a cudgel. He has on multiple occasions demonstrated exceptional levels of cunning, having frequently employed stealth countless times, and has been witnessed capably using his environment as a weapon. After Freddy enhanced his intelligence with the Necronomicon, he was even able to anticipate and counter a laid out trap, although this boost in intelligence was temporary. One of Jason's most commonly seen skills was his almost unparalleled accuracy and skills as a marksman. While there are a few scarce examples within the movies of what seems to be inconsistent accuracy, this is little more than plot-induced stupidity that seems to be there to give the protagonist more time, and therefore will not have any bearing on my analysis. Jason's marksmanship was such that he could effortlessly employ not only the use of a longbow, but could use anything he got his hands on as a lethal projectile, including his own machete on several occasions. Jason has demonstrated a limited proficiency for unarmed combat, having capably fought against the likes of Freddy Krueger's daughter, whom Freddy had temporarily given some of his powers to, as well as going toe-to-toe with Krueger himself, multiple incarnations of Freddy, butchered large crowds of hardly trained soldiers, Ash Williams, and even stood his ground against his cybernetically enhanced future self, Uber Jason. One ability that Jason is thought to possess but isn't seen very often is an apparent ability to teleport. Within Jason Takes Manhattan, he frequently demonstrated an ability to inexplicably appear in front of his victims. While it wasn't shown on screen, this ability was carried over to his relentless variation within the latest installment of Mortal Kombat. Now obviously game mechanics do not equal as feats, but it must be remembered that the majority of Jason's abilities within the game are based on things that he has previously done in the movies. By this logic, this would carry more weight behind his ability to teleport. However, this ability's showings are still inconsistent and likely won't come into play, but it is still worth mentioning. On the whole, Jason Voorhees may have combined simplistic brawler style might with basic hack and slash methods, but his sheer brutality and ability to tank almost anything thrown at him made for a very effective package. He may have demonstrated many efficient and stealthy kills, but ultimately, in a fight, the best way to describe Jason Voorhees is as follows: he is not water come to drown you, he is a rock come to crush you. And now we turn our attention to Batman. Simply put, Batman is a martial arts powerhouse. It is unclear as to how many martial arts he actually has a knowledge of. Some say he's mastered every martial art known to man, though considering there are literally thousands, it would take over a lifetime to accomplish this. However, the more common theory is that he is thought to possess a mastery of roughly 100 or slightly above forms of fighting. This seems more likely considering when he started and finished his training. As you can expect from someone with such a broad skill set, Batman is an extremely versatile fighter, perfectly equipped to deal with almost any situation. However, he is no textbook martial artist. He combines his skills with his genius level intellect, assessing his opposition and applying the most appropriate technique to get the job done, anticipating his enemy's actions and adjusting his own technique to counter. As such, one of Batman's primary assets is his mind. Taking advantage of his genius level intellect, he not only became the world's greatest detective, but also a master level strategist. And as a result, Batman works best when given time to prepare for his battles, though he is by no means at a complete disadvantage when dropped into fights cold. Batman's primary moral within a fight is not to kill. However, he will batter an opponent into submission if absolutely necessary, and has even successfully employed attacks against the weak points on even superhumanly powerful foes, even subduing them. Like Jason, Batman is an expert marksman. His accuracy was unparalleled. Few among his contemporaries were capable of competing with him in this field. All of these skills and smarts have led Batman to become one of the most renowned and dangerous martial artists of his time, allowing him to contend with both human and superhuman foes alike. This one is also easy to call. Batman has an obvious and definite advantage due to his more refined and greater overall mastery in terms of both martial arts and tactical viability. While he wouldn't initially be aware that he's fighting a zombie, he would eventually be able to figure out Jason once the fight progressed long enough, considering Jason's insane tolerance for injury and damage. However, Batman wouldn't be inclined to use any extreme equipment, as he wouldn't know the extent of Jason's immortality and durability. Jason's apparent ability to teleport would not come into play, as it's showing to have been relatively inconsistent overall, and the only times he seemingly used it was for the purpose of stalking his prey, not fighting adversaries. But in the end, Batman is a more refined and skilled fighter, with a greater plethora of skills and smarts. I declare Batman the superior martial artist. Throughout the course of his life, Jason has wielded a plethora of weapons, ranging from axes and hatchets to harpoon guns and longbows, as well as many others. However, for the sake of this video, I will be observing Jason with his signature weapon, his machete. The traditional tool of a survivalist or hunter, the machete features a one-handed grip and a 10 to 13 inch blade, capable of cutting through even some of the toughest materials on the planet. All in all, a rather effective killing tool. Batman has also carried a plethora of weapons and gadgets over his career. Now it would take too long to go over everything that he has or may use, so for the sake of this video, I will be giving him the most basic and straightforward gadgets that he is pretty much guaranteed to have on hand at all times. The most commonly used weapon in Batman's arsenal would be his well-known batarangs. Essentially ninja stars in the shape of a bat, the Dark Knight uses these sharp-edged projectiles as his go-to weapon. He has been known to modify them for specific circumstances, ranging from smoke bombs, tear gas, sleeping gas, EMPs, and flashbangs, as well as many others. He often carries an advanced grapple gun with him as well, allowing him to propel himself to higher ground, or sometimes stun and subdue enemies. He is also known to carry explosives of various strengths, such as plastique, and other timed and remote explosives. The majority of his kit is stored within his utility belt, featuring several compartments, but he is also known to have a few secret compartments for storing additional weapons throughout his suit. Now of course there are a ton more potential items that Batman can be expected to have on hand, but what I've just listed are the most commonly used weapons and tools within the Dark Knight's arsenal, or in other words, the ones that he is pretty much guaranteed to have on his person. Overall, Batman is nothing short of a walking armory. Right from the start, it's clear to see that Batman is the better equipped of the two, having a greater multitude of weapons, which would ultimately provide him with more options. However, the ironic thing is that most of his gadgets will be largely ineffective against Jason. Batarangs would be like mosquito bites to the Brute. Restraining him wouldn't work, as he has broke free when in similar circumstances before, through sheer strength. Smoke bombs will be a distraction, and considering Batman wouldn't know how durable Jason is once he's realised he's not among the living, he wouldn't be so inclined to risk killing Jason with explosives. While Jason has been rendered unconscious through the use of sleeping agents before, the fact is his healing factor would still be able to disperse it, as when he was subdued in such a manner, the protagonists had to keep inducing the sedatives to keep him under. But regardless, all these pieces of kit do still have the potential to aid Batman in this bout. Simply put, better to have it and not need it, than to need it and not have it. I declare Batman the better equipped combatant. And now for the verdict. Usually in fights such as these, the deciding factor comes down to superior skill and equipment, with physicality playing a small role. However, the ironic thing is that this is not the case here, and is in fact quite the opposite. Batman would almost certainly be the one to take the early advantage, his greater overall level of skill allowing him to gain the upper hand, but Jason would simply tank the damage and withstand Batman's assault. While Batman is capable of dishing out some quite considerable damage, Jason can simply dish out and endure more. After all, if he can punch a hole through a solid steel door, imagine what he can do to a squishy little human thing. Although it would take a long time, Jason would tank all of Batman's attacks, outlast him, and eventually crush him. And thus,
Jason wins. Fatality.